What's up? And welcome in to Under the Hood with me, Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for downloading the podcast and checking us out on YouTube, youtube.com. Look for Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. We are growing on the podcast as well as on YouTube as well. Thank you so much for your support. We're here to talk about week 6 in college football. We got a very special guest that's going to be with us talking about week 6 in college football. It's been fun so far, so we will break it down with someone from SiriusXM College Sports Radio in just a moment. But first, let me tell you about Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. They bring us this podcast. Go to nhschicago.org. Again, nhschicago.org for Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. Hey, they've helped my family. They can help yours as well. Get out of that stuffy apartment, that loft that's way too much. Get yourself an opportunity to plant your own roots in your home by going to nhschicago.org. You can learn the process of buying a home. Tell them J-Hood sent you, and they would appreciate sitting down with you and your family to get yourself your own home through their program, Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. I am so excited because I was in Las Vegas with the ESPN Chicago crew, and we were there on Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday was a college football Saturday. So I had a lot of fun being at the Wynn, checking out the college football, even though some of the things that happened didn't go my way. I want to kind of review a little bit of that from week 5 in college football. Let me start first with my favorite team, and that is the Georgia Bulldogs. Sick 'em. Georgia, Bama. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. So, listen, I'm not anti-Alabama as much as I am anti-Tennessee, but Georgia, Bama is always a great matchup. And Bama came in and they ended the 33-game home winning streak. Georgia. Now, listen, when I look at this game, Georgia's, whatever reason, their third down defense is just not good. It is horrible. They were not good against Tennessee. They were not good against Bama. The Georgia third down defense was not good. This has to get better. Also, Bama's quarterback, Ty Simpson, he was fantastic on third down conversions. I want to make sure that I give him credit. I know that the key to all of this was to beat Georgia if you're a Bama fan, but I will just tell you that as a Georgia fan, I was disappointed in what I saw from Georgia as far as what they have done in the secondary. Kirby Smart, the head coach for the Georgia Bulldogs, has to get this secondary right. I think that Georgia scores enough points, but the defense just let down, and they were just seemingly swimming upstream the entire time. And so Georgia loses to Alabama. I thought that was a good game, but you just kind of felt watching the ebb and flow of it that Georgia would not have an opportunity to win that ball game. Another game that stood out to me is Ole Miss against LSU. So Ole Miss, with their quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, reminds me of old Chris Chambliss, who used to play baseball a long time ago. Here's a guy here that was in a Division III school. He's had 3 straight 300-yard passing games so far for Ole Miss. So you thought a big test against LSU and their defense, right? Well, the total yardage in this game was Ole Miss, 480 to 254 total yards. So this quarterback for Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, has had 3 straight wins. I mentioned 3 straight 300-yard passing games. It's been tremendous. So my question is, I would like to know what's happened to Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback for LSU, because in the summer, we talked about Garrett Nussmeier possibly for the Heisman. What happened there? Where he is 33rd in total QBR in college football. He was 2 for 11 on third downs against Ole Miss's defense. I just think that on both sides of the football under Brian Kelly, for whatever reason, this football team is substandard on both ends of the football, on offense and defense. I'm surprised. I thought that LSU would be better coming into this year, all the hype over Nussmeier, the quarterback, and that was not the case. I'll give Ole Miss credit that Ole Miss was able to get that game won. There's a lot of hype around this game, obviously, but Ole Miss getting the job done against LSU. Brian Kelly's team kind of underwhelming, I think, in a lot of ways. So that's a second game. A third game is a game that I predicted, that I knew that even though it was a whiteout and College Game Day was all dressed in white for Penn State, I knew that Penn State would find a way to piss it away, and that's exactly what happened. So Oregon goes in there and they defeat Penn State in double overtime. A really good game, but I'm not shocked that Penn State choked this game away. So I look at the quarterback for Oregon, and I think that he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. I think that he played well and very well in this game, and Penn State's defense looked tired at the end. I'm not surprised that Penn State lost the game, and James Franklin always with that look on his face after a loss and blaming everything from the fans to the sun in the sky, whatever. Penn State in a big game always bet against Penn State, and that's exactly what happened in this game. I just thought that you figure you have, 110, 115,000 people there all dressed in white. You just thought that maybe, just one time, be able to get it done against Oregon. And Oregon's very good. They are a top 2, top 3 team in college football. So I'm not surprised at what I saw there. So those are 3 games that stood out to me. Obviously, as a Georgia fan, you know what Alabama wanted to do? They want to beat Georgia. And that's exactly what happened. All right, let me give you some news and notes. We're going to hear from our guest in just a moment from SiriusXM College Sports Nation. So I want to talk to you about some of the news and notes. Shout out to the Illini. Jaden Mayava is the quarterback for USC, and he had his worst game this season, even though he threw for 364 yards. That was a fun game, USC and Illinois. You wonder if there was going to be a body clock scenario where USC is traveling from Los Angeles to Champaign. Would that be an issue? Nope. It was actually fine. They actually was in the ball game, but Illinois just had enough to win. And so there you have it, Illinois over USC. What else happened last week? Mizzou had a 300 yard. They're averaging 300 yards per game on the ground. They're running the football really well, Mizzou. So 300 yards per game. And they're 5-0 this season. So I will say what's up to Mizzou. Also, Ohio State's defense in that game against Washington. Ohio State's defense, 5.5 points surrendered so far. They have been dominant defensively. They have shut down the opposition there. So Ohio State with a solid win against Washington. Let's see. Miami's defense really stood out to me from last week as well. Bain is one of those guys. Macedon, another one of those guys on the defense for Miami. Miami's defense, very good. And also, I want to point out something here, too. Let me go back to full screen before we hear from our guest. I saw this week that Sam Pittman was fired by the Arkansas Razorbacks as their head coach. They've had some tough losses this year. I am no coach apologist, but I will say this about Arkansas. You fire a good man in Sam Pittman, and I would ask, well, who do you think you are, Arkansas? You're going to find somebody better this year, Bobby Petrino, off the scrap heap? Who are you going to find that's better than Sam Pittman at this point in time? I just don't understand Arkansas sometimes, because you think about the riches in the SEC, the teams that would have the most capital, the most money to be able to buy whatever they want, players, coaches, whatever. And I think about Walmart and Tyson Chicken and all these benefactors that Arkansas has. They have to be top 3 as far as benefactors and boosters that can help out the program. It's one thing to have John Calipari. That's why he's on the basketball side. But on the football side, who are they going to find? They have enough money to be able to buy out coaches, clearly. But who do they have that they really want to invest in to get the Arkansas program to be something, to be someone? Pittman got them out of the doldrums at Arkansas, and you fired a good man. Is that John Gruden? Is John Gruden going to be the next coach of Arkansas? Is that the step up that you want? All I know is that don't be cheap on athletics when it comes to football. Put all the resources into basketball, great with Calipari, but are they going to spend the money to be able to be a top team in the SEC? It seems like they always fall short on football and other sports, and basketball somewhat. But I like to know what's next for Arkansas. Pittman, ashamed that he was let go by Arkansas. All right, let's talk some more college football. And like to let you know that Under the Hood is brought to you by Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, nhschicago.org. Hey, let's continue our college football conversation with a sports reporter and analyst for SiriusXM College Sports Nation. Darius Brockett is with me here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Darius, as always, appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to talk some college football. I've enjoyed this season so far, so I'm all ears, and I have some hot takes, some may say, or some cold ones. You know, everyone has their own opinion of how they think of the world of college football.
There's no question about that. I want to give you a forum because I do hear you here and there on some of these shows here on College Sports Nation. I'm like, look, give this brother a platform. He needs to be on here more. I want to hear more. So we're gonna do it here today. I want to ask you this question to start off. So as far as where we are with the season so far, if I said, Darius, I'm going to give you Oregon or Ohio State to win the national championship or the field, which one would you take?
Who? So my gut says Oregon, but the reality I want to go with the field because it's just so hard to win now, and you need a lot of luck. And right now, Oregon's not a team of luck, but they are just running through teams. And especially what we saw with Penn State, like although they let up a little bit in that second half, it was still like Oregon's clearly still the better team on the field. The thing with Ohio State and why I don't go with them, it is because what we've seen so far out of that offense is still very vanilla and still very young. And with Julian saying, so it's not like we got the full piece of what this Ohio State team can look like. We don't have the full aspect of what that offense will look like. The defense looks great, but we don't know everything just yet. And the field has looked just slightly better overall. Like over time, we have Ole Miss that's come out of nowhere. We have a Georgia that still looks good, even though they lost to Alabama. Then we have Miami that's dominating in the ACC right now. We'll find out more about them this weekend. So I slightly lean to the field, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon was your national championship at the end of this year.
I tell you what, it's great for the sport. If it's not Ohio State, who has just been dominant, we were talking earlier about how they're averaging giving up 5.5 points a game. That's how strong they've been defensively. And then Oregon being able to walk in there to Happy Valley, winning against Penn State, big game. Could have been a body
Mm-hmm.
clock game and it still won. So, but the field is interesting as well as you just laid out. There's a number of teams that can get this done if they get hot.
Like there's so many. I think what we ignore is that there's teams that we automatically gave platforms to, like a Clemson, and then the season starts and we're like, whoa. But then you forget Florida State, even though they lost to Virginia. You go look at
Mhm.
Florida State and you're still like, well, they can still kind of win this thing. They just beat what everyone else would now mentally assume the best team in the SEC after they just beat the best team in the SEC in Alabama. And you go, okay, Tommy Castellanos, that offense looks good. The defense is firing all cylinders. Okay, we go there. Then you look at LSU, who had the stress of we got to bring back everybody. You save some money, you spend money on the guys that's already there to retain the roster. Then you go get some right guys in the portal, and you're like, okay, this is the team. But then they go lose to LSU to Ole Miss, and you're like, okay, Ole Miss is the team. And then you keep looking in the Big 12, and we go look at Texas Tech right now with all the oil money they got from Cody Campbell, and we're like, okay, so maybe you can buy a roster and win. And then we go even further to Iowa State and Ames, Iowa, and we're like, oh, that team's sneaky kind of good there. So it's so difficult. And all those teams that I mentioned, I know not all of them have a national contending name next to them when you look at it, when you look at the number ranked to them. But if you watch them play, it's one of those we always say any given Saturday, where if you put them on neutral sided fields, all it takes is one bad play. And out of all those teams I named, any one of them can be the best out there on any given Saturday.
Darius, I know that there was a number of people that were doing a Google search for Kalen DeBoer and his buyout earlier this year.
Woo!
But I know the Vanderbilt is coming for them. I believe that I think Alabama can exercise their demons and get this done against Vanderbilt. I think they can win. But I will point out the resume of taking on Missouri on October 10th, taking on Tennessee at home on October 17th, and then taking on Oklahoma in November. I think that those are three games that we can circle. Can we say that Bama has been, if they get past Vanderbilt, do you think that they can overcome?
No, and it's literally not because Alabama's bad. It's just every other team you just named has gotten better, and
Yep.
they're not your old team of old. Like they're not a team that I remember being like 9, 10, 11, and just hearing, oh, Vanderbilt, Missouri, oh, yeah, they're SEC schools, but yeah, you just wipe your mud with them and just go about your day. No, Bo Perbula got to Missouri, and at one point he was competing for a job. Unfortunately, the backup quarterback gets hurt in the height of the competition, so it's all his. But Missouri's firing on all cylinders. Then you got teams like Oklahoma down the list, and then you just don't know. And the hard thing is with Alabama, it's not can you win the big games because Kalen DeBoer is now proven that with back-to-back years, but it's those games that quote unquote you're favorite in. Like the Vanderbilt line originally opened up at 14. Now it's come down to 10, and who knows, it might go back up to 12. But you're a double-digit point favorite. You are a two-score favorite. Can you go win that game at home and prove that, okay, yeah, you caught us sleeping last week, you caught us napping, but now we know who we are. Year 2 under Kalen DeBoer, the offense knows who we are. I got my offensive coordinator back. Like, you have the team that you would have had at, let's say, Washington in terms of coaching staff wise, that you've now implemented into this new team. Everyone's fully integrated under the DeBoer system. So can they be that team when you need them to be? Not when you want them to be, like against Georgia or LSU, the teams that we quote unquote scratches W's. But then when you get to play those games, you're on the verge of losing by 3 points or a game winning field goal.
And by the way, I should just point out to you, as someone that was watching that game very closely on Saturday, I was not pleased as a Georgia fan to see what happened there. I
Look,
give
I need
Bama
Georgia to play
credit.
better.
Yeah.
I have them in one of my videos earlier this year. I have them as a team that can go deep in the playoff run. I didn't care that they had all this new talent and
Mm-hmm.
Gunnar Stockton. I need this team to be as good as they were. And I think it's very concerning at this stage of how they don't look great. They look good, but don't look great. Like, Kirby Smart is one of the smartest coaches in college football right now. And you got saved in Neyland Stadium against Tennessee. You got saved, and then it comes to bite you this week. So I'm with you. As Georgia, I'm not even a Georgia fan. I grew up a Miami fan. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Hurricanes fan all the way. But watching Georgia, I need them to be better so my takes don't look stupid here.
Yeah, the secondary is Swiss cheese. That was not good. I just know that I was not happy with that on Saturday. I do want to move on to Texas and Florida because a couple of things with this I want to talk to you about. One about philosophy, how we cover college football, and just this game. So Texas, Florida is in Gainesville. Florida is 1-3. They're not going in the right direction. Speaking of buyouts, so what do you
Woo!
think? What do you think Arch Manning looks like in this game against Florida? Is it free and easy, or will there be difficulty against Florida's defense?
Florida has one of the best defenses, I think, that everyone talks about in the SEC. But because we're so focused on Billy Napier's contract and DJ Lagway, who are, in theory, those two are married together right now. Because if
Mm-hmm.
DJ Lagway doesn't play, Napier, you would have been gone last year. Let's be quite frank. But for Arch Manning, you haven't wowed anybody. Like, I'm no Paul Feinbaum. I didn't think he was the best thing since Tim Tebow. That was a crazy statement to make out there. But I did have hope for him. I knew it was going to take some learning curves. You never played college football, really. You never really, like, you stepped in against Louisiana Monroe. We're not going to count that. Let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it's a good game, but it's not the game. Now you're going down into the swamp against what is arguably a top 5 defense in the conference itself. And who knows where we put them inside of all the other defenses in the whole college football. And you have to find your rhythm early. And the one thing with him is that he can get nervous very fast. And Florida's very good at attacking quarterbacks. Also, Sark has to be better at calling plays for Arch and has to find ways to get those receivers open. So schematically, I don't know if Arch is going to light it up with a 300-yard game, but I do know he's going to show some improvement that he started to find his way over time.
So, Darius, I want to ask you about how we cover college football today versus like 5 years ago. I'll just give you my background. Covering college football, it was always coach didn't do well, or the program did not recruit enough, or that's usually the two things, right? This is how we
Mm-hmm.
covered it. We never blamed the players. It was almost like high school coverage in a lot of ways, where we're not getting on some kid that's 17, that's 16, that made a mistake on the high school field, at least not in what we do on radio or on YouTube. But I think that things have changed because of NIL. Do you feel the same way that when we break down the NFL, we talk about how players did not get the job done, how coaches didn't get the job done? But what about college sports? Do you feel like it's fair for us to be able to pick apart players based on how much money that's being made and because of NIL?
I think it's fair, but I say that with we need to have more context. The same way how NFL, and if you watch any television show or any radio show, someone will show a play or break down a play on why this should have been working well. Now everyone's excuse is, well, you're getting paid 5 million to go catch a slant route. You're being paid 10 million to go throw this deep ball. Like it has to have a little nuance and a little context to it. We can't just go, oh, these kids are being paid. Why not? We also still have to remember some of these guys that are quote unquote making this big money are usually incoming freshmen that everyone's hitching their wagon to, i.e., a Bryce Underwood or Nico Iamaleava when he first got to Tennessee, when he was the first $8 million quarterback. So when you have these price tags, yes, it comes with expectations. I put it in the context of this. If you're a GM and NFL wise or any sport, I spent first round money, I expect first round talent. Now you don't always get that. It's not guaranteed. Everyone has to develop at their own pace and speed, but that's usually what comes with that. That's that expectation that comes with you. And unfortunately, it is a lot on the star quarterback or the star lineman that's getting paid. And whoever misses that play, you messed up. So I do think it's cool to criticize. I think everyone has a right to an opinion. Everyone has a right to criticize and have a critique, but you have to have context. At the same time, these are still 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. Yeah, we still got a couple COVID stragglers that's my age at 27,
Yeah.
25, and 26 that's still around. But we're starting to get back to that original age gap of, hey, he's 18. Oh, and don't forget, we have a couple kids who reclassify as in a Ryan Williams or a Jeremiah Smith that are 17. So it still should come with some nuance about it. They're not fully grown adults yet. They are still, at the end of the day, college kids turning into an adult. So having a little bit of nuance behind it, I think that's what would give the coverage a little bit different space instead of just going, well, we paid $10 million for him. Why isn't he catching his slant route?
Mhm. You're a Morgan State guy, right?
Yeah.
Morgan State guy. I do want to ask you. I have another question, but I do want to ask you about HBCUs. You produce content and you produce other people's content. And here in Chicago, I'm seeing the games of the week on the Grio and also on the Fox Plus channel here locally. So I'm able to watch HBCUs. Do you feel like it's undercovered these days when we watch college football and we see HBCUs? I know that in shows you're producing, they're not talking about it. There's not enough special shows on Sirius XM to talk about what's happening in the MEAC and SWAC. So you tell me your thoughts about how how you look at the coverage for HBCU football.
It's definitely a local based coverage. I think it could be better. Also, I think it comes with the partnership of how HBCUs view themselves going forward. One thing that we know for certain, or one thing I know for certain, and if a lot of people don't know, the MEAC was one of the first conferences that opted into the whole name, image, and likeness thing, and having to do the 20% and opting in when that deal went down. And then other schools had options if they wanted to. I think that allows those HBCUs to start transitioning from being I grew up and I was taught HBCUs was academics first, sports second,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of the money, if we want to be honest, on the HBCU level comes from your athletic departments, or you have to invest in those things. So having that could change that. And I think the coverage overall of the sports is very minute. One thing that we always find, there's kids that come out of nowhere that make themselves into this D1 product or make themselves into this professional based product. And we're like, where'd you find them? And we're always baffled that they're like, oh, he came from Jackson State. Oh, he came from Ferris State and Trinidad Chambers. Oh, he came from Morgan State. Oh, he came from this school, this school, this school. And again, that's on us. I always say that's on us as media reporters or meet talent relations in media, because we're not giving people those eyes and optics. One of the things that I know for certain, if we could as a whole not say it has to be on channel 81 or Fox 5 prime time every week, but if you dedicate a slot to just slowly chip in and make that coverage. We saw what it did for Coach Prime in Jackson State. It put a lot of HBCUs on the map when you got to play those schools. Everyone's going to know your go-to schools. Everyone's going to know your Howards, your Hamptons, your Jackson States, your FAMUs, but not everybody's going to get to see always going to see a Grambling. Not everyone's going to see a Morgan. Not everyone's going to see a North Carolina Central. Not everyone's going to see FAMU, even though it's probably one of the most popular HBCUs out there. But if
Right.
you just slowly chip at it, like Eddie George was at Tennessee State for a long time and pretty much no one knew about it. Now you get these coaches that were former NFL players, even more coming back, like Deshaun Jackson, Michael Vick. It should add more eyes to it, but also the more eyes you get on that product, the more scouts are willing to want to go there, the more fans are really wanting to go there, the more people are clamoring for it on TV. It's not sloppy sports by any means for anyone who doesn't value it as the same as a Alabama and Georgia. It's relatively still the same product. Yeah, it's not going to be a 6'6", 280 tight end, but it's a guy that you can see play on Sundays. He may be 6'3", and instead of him playing tight end, he's a receiver and he's 220.
Right. Right. But it can still get the job done. And scouts are going to be everywhere to see him.
Yeah. We can't say scouts are going to
totally
if they need you, they'll find you. We can't keep doing that. If they're not going to find you unless you put eyes out there.
Right.
That's the hard truth of things. Like, we got so much in this narrative. Well, talent gets found when the scouts go out there. Well, no one really thought about going to Jackson State until Coach Prime goes there. Then you start seeing, oh, they do have guys. Oh, they do have people besides Shador and Shiloh and Travis Hunter. And then those guys get drafted, and some of them go on to making the final roster, or some of those guys go on to make practice squads. So you got to put the eyes out there.
Darius, lastly, which team did I fail to ask you about that you want to tell me about that stands out to you?
Honestly, the team that you failed to ask me about would be Clemson. I thought that's where we would start there, because it's what happened to Clemson? I think that's one of the biggest things. And for this season to be as bad as it is, I will go on record and say this. Dabo should not be on any hot seat anywhere across the country. If anybody has thought we got to get him out of here, no. He's even gone on his own right and spazzed at the fan base, saying, if you guys want to go back to losing, you can get rid of me right now. People forget how bad Clemson was until he got the guys of Taj Boyd. He got the guys of Deshaun Watson. He got the guys of Sammy Watkins, D-Hop. Like, people forget. And I think the weird part of short-term memory is that everyone wants to remember the bad, but not the good. Dabo, terrible season, but he will reload. He will get some guys back. Now, the season may not be all down the drain right now, even though they have 3 losses. You can always win out by some magical history and make the ACC championship game. And if that happens, everyone will shut up and forget all about the negatives that he's had. Well, he didn't go to the transfer portal a lot. He didn't get this guy. He didn't need that guy. He has a bunch of young kids. Hey, everyone falls sometimes. And I think we just have to have a little courtesy to one of the few college coaches active that has a national championship ring. There's not that many. He's, 2? It's Kirby Smart and him.
Yep.
So everyone, cool your jets. South Carolina, the state of South Carolina, relax. Dabo's going to get you guys right.
Tell everyone about your YouTube channel.
So my socials and YouTube is Brockett Media on everything. I just like sports. I've always loved talking ball, and I never wanted to be the guy that's critical. I couldn't be the guy that's critical. It was hard for me to do it when you have so much love for what you do. So I can't be the guy that's like, oh, he's terrible, he sucks. So what I wanted to do was just go, hey, it may not be good, but I can tell you where they can get better. I've always liked the idea of building rosters. I always liked the idea of being a GM. And that's kind of how I got started. And I've kind of found myself gravitating more to college football and the WNBA in terms of my coverage and content. It's been really fun. Today, a video just dropped on, I had 4 teams for a midseason vibe check. Oregon and Clemson were the 2 that I mentioned the most. And I think I have Ole Miss and Miami out there. So that video is out now. But I do a lot of scouting report breakdowns for certain prospects that I really like going to the draft. One on with Shador, and I know he's a hot button issue right now in Cleveland. But even Canton Ward. So I'm not huge into rankings and lists, but I do show appreciation. So if you see a list of mine or see a ranking of mine, don't take it out of context as I think this guy's bad. It's really just me showing appreciation straightforward.
Man, I'm so glad that we were able to connect and do this show. Hope that you come back to Under the Hood again, because we got a lot more college football to talk.
Oh, 1,000%. I'm also at some point while I'm on your show, hopefully you can join me for something. I'm going to bring back my series of If I Were the Committee, where I'm the college football playoff committee after they drop, and me and some people that I know or just some buddies of mine who also covered college sports. We just going to talk trash for a second, but then we're going to get into it. Did the committee get it right? Did they not? Especially after what we've just gone through with the AP polls, and we got people getting called out for their votes. Like, we got to figure out a system here.
I'll be glad to. Absolutely be glad to. I'm glad you spent some time with us, man.
This was amazing. I would love to come back. This was something I never would have expected to do. So 1000%. UX, I'm here.
We are presented by Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, nhschicago.org. Get out of that stuffy loft. Get out of that apartment that's way too much, that it will cost way too much. Go to nhschicago.org. They've helped my family. They can help yours as well. They're a friend of us on ESPN Chicago and right here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. For Darius, I'm J-Hood. Thanks so much for checking out Under the Hood. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. We're having so much fun. We're growing steadily on YouTube and also on our social media channels. So thanks so much for your support. We'll talk to you next time on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. So long, everybody.